listeners. Here we are back again for our last podcast prior to going on hiatus. As you know, we usually go on hiatus June, July, and August, and we'll be back in September. We wanted to give you guys something to look forward to. So you can see we still have our three lovely men, handsome men with us. So today we want to talk about the three R's: respect, relationships, and romance. So, according to the dictionary, respect is a feeling of deep admiration for someone or something elicited by their abilities, qualities, or their achievements. Okay, I look at respect as simply understanding my position on any subject, having your opinion, I respecting your opinion, and you respecting mine. So, Nate, what do you say about respect? What are your feelings about respect? How do you view respect? Whether or not it's related to the job, it's related to your personal life, even your children. What is your take on respect?
Yeah, I think that this piece of respect is both around acceptance and admiration, if for different aspects and characteristics that people display, and so when people have attributes that it might be that I aspire to, or that are really really important to me, and they exemplify them really well, I think that's a source of the respect that I would have for them for that. And that's kind of a general piece. I think in terms of, with my spouse and in particular, I think there's this whole list of ideas and things that I wanted in someone to be my wife and to compliment me. And she has so many of those. I literally had a list. I literally had a list. I would write these things down, and my list probably started out with about 11 things, right? And it would be things like, I want someone who has like their own interests and hobbies. And that was selected only because I was like, well, when we get together to have dinner at the end of a day, I want them to have something to like bring back. I don't want to just talk about my day. I already lived it, so I had it already. And so that was like an example. And then as I met my wife, I kept adding, right, to that list of all of these other attributes that, that I respect. And so I personally, think it's kind of rooted in that, at least for me,
And Jean?
Respect is the key for me anyway. Respect is the core principle by everything I go about in my life. I give respect. I respect people. I respect opinion, and it doesn't matter, old, young. To me, there's nothing. There's nothing more valuable than the respect that you give to people, and because then I expect the respect as well. It's a two-way street. I give it, but I also expect it. And in my relationship with my friends, my family, my coworkers, my wife, it's always about respect. We can disagree on something, but with the respect has to be there.
That's right.
That then once there's no respect, then everything just breaks down. Yeah. We were talking about feelings a couple of podcasts ago. You feel like you have no value. So respect is the fundamental. Besides love in a relationship, respect is very important as well. I think it's one of the key elements.
Definitely. Nicholas?
Yeah, I would say they've kind of provided a good example of my view on respect. Like, if you listen to the last podcast, you hear them talk about their wives, you hear them talk about their mothers. You could tell that these are men who have great respect for the women in their lives. And I would say that says a lot about a man. Like, I would not trust a man who does not have great respect for the women in his lives. And so I would say for me as young man, for a young man, and for other young men, three of the important things that I would value, the three R's that I usually, because I've done this before with different people, would be respect, responsibility, and rules. Respect, responsibility, and rules. And for our relationship, I mean, I want to show my wife as much respect as possible. And I want to know when I'm not doing that, because one of the main reasons too is I want my son to know, that she is the woman of the house. I want him to grow up to have a deep respect for his mother and for the other women in his life. And so I would say respect is a lot, and it's not only for values that you may aspire to have, like you may have that for certain people, but it's also just for values and cares for hearts that you don't have. Like you might not have a heart for the same thing that everyone else has a heart for, but understanding that there is something valuable in the things that other people care about. So it's not a matter of compromising your opinions with people, like you could be very respectful and disagree with someone and be very firm in what it is that you believe. I think you should be able to do that. That's a sign of maturity. But at the same time, you should be able to understand that somebody is valuable, despite where you disagree with them, and show them that dignity in the way that you treat them.
Yeah, I think we've got two things to talk about. We've got respect as a verb and respect as a noun. So, right, I respect you. I may disagree with you, but I respect you. I may contest something you say, but I'm reversing that. I'm showing you respect. But if you do something that I don't agree with, worse, you're hurting yourself. You're taking your life down. Now I'm going, I don't know that inside I respect that. I don't respect that. I don't respect your choices. But that's different than showing somebody respect and being able to engage on a level. So I hear what's already been said and align with all of that as well. But I'm sitting here thinking, to respect someone, maybe I don't. Maybe you haven't earned it. Right. But I believe that respect, to show respect, it doesn't matter what you've earned or not earned. I should always show you respect. What I'm processing inside might be a different thing. And me too. To please show me respect, even if you don't respect me for some decisions I make.
Well, just on that, I mean, like one of the ways that I kind of conceive of it is that a certain kind of respect follows from what people are, right? Like people being made in the image of God, people having an intrinsic value. And so like that respect people get no matter what.
Correct.
Right.
But it's another thing to say that we have to respect everything that people do or say. Like, no, obviously we don't always respect everything that people do or say. And so I would say there's nothing to admire about certain people's qualities or actions, but there is certain cases where people do have those qualities. And so not only do they have that intrinsic, worth that is worthy of our respect, but they also have those qualities that go along with it that I think just really demonstrates who we as humans are supposed to be or what we're supposed to be,
Right.
So.
And Dr. Brown?
I respect that God created us all equal and that in each of us is the image of God. Even the vilest offender, if I look deep enough, there is the mark of God within that person. And so for that reason, I respect all humans. However, I do not respect the behaviors of humans. And when humans treat other humans inhumanely and as though they're not of value, I have no respect for those kinds of behaviors. So I do believe respect is earned and that the other respect is earned. While I value all human beings and respect them, that we earn the respect and we give respect and we earn respect. It's reciprocal.
Well, and for you to show me respect has very little to do with me. It has everything to do with how you choose to behave and respond and live your life. So I think those are two things.
Yeah, and it's compound, it's reciprocal, it's a little complex. But I think if we start with the valuing of people and knowing that every human being is precious, that's where respect starts.
Man, this is getting deep.
And we can get real deep, but we want to touch on everything. We're probably going to make a series of these subjects because they're powerful subject matters. Without respect, you cannot have a real meaningful relationship in anything. So that's why they intertwine, they go with each other. The dictionary term relationship, which is what we're getting to, is the way in which two or more concepts, objects, or people are connected, or the state of being connected. Okay, agreed? So if you have a relationship or want to have a meaningful relationship with your spouse, with your mother, with your co-workers, if you do not show respect, that relationship is not going to be very strong. There's nothing to grow on. So I want to hear your opinion concerning relationship with your spouse. Who want to go first?
I mean, I mentioned, kind of this list of things that I have. I think in terms of it being this core piece that's needed in the relationship, when we make choices, how we demonstrate our outward demonstration of choices and what we do, it also says something about us. Mm-hmm. So what would it say about me if I did not outwardly demonstrate respect of my spouse? Mm-hmm. I think that's a reflection on me as a person.
Yep.
And so yes, there's all these things that I admire about her, and they're sources of respect for us. And there's also the kind of this element of I need to respect the relationship, and the impact that has in my life, the impact that it has in my children's life, the impact that it has in my spouse's life, and so that at least that's my kind of initial thoughts on that.
Okay, and
It's respect in relationships and vice versa are extremely important. It is what allows that relationship, because relationships are not easy. I mean, trust me, I've been through a couple, and and it's not easy. But what keeps them going, what keeps them alive, is the respect that you have for your partner. So if you have that respect, if you show that respect, and simple things like, hey, you know what? If we have a disagreement, let's not fight in front of the children. Let's respect. So, and that creates the boundaries. That permits that if there's a situation, if there's a problem, just the mere fact that you respect each other allows you to survive and maintain, that relationship. I mentioned early in one of the earlier podcasts, I have an ex-wife. We're not together. She's remarried. I'm remarried, but we respect each other. We can, and it was important for our daughter that we had together that she saw that we respected each other. That we're not a couple. We're not. But we're parents, right? We have that relationship, and she's our priority. But we respect each other. We when we were like that. But now we have a respectful, honest relationship that we can, which helped us raise our daughter. Yeah.
Right.
So it's a very in addition to communication, I think respect is a very important component of any relationship.
And that speaks volume that you and your ex are able to maintain that relationship, respectful relationship,
Yes. Yeah.
because you guys are setting an example for your daughter. Correct. Right. So, Nate, I'm not Nate. I'm sorry, Nicholas.
Like
Too many N's. Nicholas.
Yeah, you got close enough. I mean, just listening to what these guys are saying, I would say, I don't want to say respect is everything, because that's just kind of a blanket statement. There's a lot to a relationship, but respect does cut very deep, right? So we already talked about the respect that you generally should have for all people. But when it comes to your spouse, there's more than just that, because obviously you value who she is. But more than that, you also value, certain qualities about her and certain habits that she's displayed in her life, certain virtues that she may have. But I would say even more than that, you have this objective component in that relationship that you don't have with other people, right? So me and my brother right here, we just met each other. Right. There are no commitments working either way. We may say goodbye and never see each other again. Yeah. But when I got married to my wife, there were a number of commitments that we made to one another. And out of my respect for those commitments that I made to her, that relationship is built on the foundation of respect, among the other things that are involved there, love and feelings and all those things. But what's so important about that is when those subjective components, right, the feelings, the communication, maybe sometimes the arguments, when those subjective components start to get a little shaky, you still have that objective, that solid foundation to fall back on, to say, you know what? we made a commitment to one another to make this work, right? So you have respect all the way down to the bottom, to the root of that relationship. That's not true of all your relationships, but it is true of the marriage relationship. And so I'm getting a little preachy. I will add this. I will add this, though. There are very few things that we participate in on this life that are perfect, right? Very few things. But there are a few things that we do get to participate in, which God has given us, right? Before the fall. One of those is work, right? One of those is our relationship with God. And one of those is our marriage. And I would say in each of those elements, respect is something that is very important. Respect within your work, respect within your relationship with God, and respect within your marriage. So respect is just fundamental attitude that I think we should have in life.
I think that, like we got married to have meaningful relationships. And if there's not respect there, I think that becomes really hard to do. Like, how do you develop something of significance with really deep if you don't have respect for
each other,
kind of right for each other and what you represent and what you do and how you do that? I just think it becomes like, I don't know how I would have a deep relationship with anyone.
You cannot.
If I didn't have respect for them. It would be hard.
Right.
Nobody likes to be dishonored. And nobody likes the feeling of being disrespected. But in my own experience in my marriage, and I would say my observation of other marriages, when a man is disrespected or dishonored, and certainly in front of others than just the two involved, the man has a much longer recovery time. It's like we chip away at that bond that we believed in, that we committed to, that, all those things. In an earlier podcast, we talked about the playfulness of men. And why is it so hard for you guys to talk intimately with me? And so, disrespect, not that I like it, but I tend to excuse it because it was probably accidental from the man to the woman, probably in a playful way. So I wanted you to connect with me, and you just blew me off playfully. Whereas if I'd done something, it's probably meditated. I probably thought about what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it. And then we say tie the knot, and it's like we loosen the knot in that relationship. So I would say, as a female, I would encourage myself and other females to watch out, because I think that it's just a harder recovery time, a longer recovery time for our significant.
Yeah, and the converse of that is also true. The respect that our wives have for us is so much. It's everything. Yeah, it's very empowering, and so yeah.
Additionally, before we move on, self-respect, not to diminish myself either, but bringing my whole self and respecting my contribution. It has to bring some balance to that. So it's not I check out, I'm submissive, I make sure that you're okay all the time, bud. But I gotta watch it.
You gotta love yourself.
So you gotta love yourself.
When you were talking, I was thinking about the fact that for us, the very first relationship we have with a woman is with our mother. And so when we were describing our mothers in the other podcast, we're talking about this kind of unwavering support, right? I think that's a word that we all wind up using, and they're because you asked, or you were mentioning or referencing that it might take longer to rebuild, and it just struck me in the terms in the sense of it's almost like that support that I was expecting isn't there, and so then how do you build it? And for my very first relationships, that should be was the one thing that I knew I could count on. And so anyways, it's the thought that came to mind when you were saying that.
Right. And talking about, we are going to get into romance in a little bit, but talking about relationship, how do you know, and this is for the men, how do you know that this person is the one? When you seeking your spouse, how do you know? What was the determining factor? Do you feel that it's always good to marry your best friend or marry a stranger? How do you feel about that? Marry on sight.
Do it today.
This one for me was I can tell you how I knew. I had my little list, things got checked off, but I had just started to date my wife when my brother passed. We were on vacation. He died in a car crash. We were all there. It was a tough situation, not only for me and my parents. We talked about what it's like to be a parent. And shortly after that, my wife, her grandmother, which was another really strong, mother figure for her, became ill with cancer, and she eventually passed away from that. And so early on in our relationship, the support that we had for each other, her in helping me through that, and then me trying to be of support for her, and that was so early, and so it was kind of this piece of, man, this person has all these other amazing things, and right, that unwavering like I really felt like I had found somebody that I knew I could lean on,
Your soulmate,
and that I could be of equal support to them back. So never fortunate to lose people that you love. But if something good can come from that, then that's a blessing, and it happened to be one for me.
Awesome. Okay, any thought on that?
For me, it was I was single, divorced for a while, and I met her, and it was almost like love at first sight. It's like, I'm like, this is the one for me. And like I said earlier, when we started dating, and when I got introduced to her girls, and the discipline and the values and the love that she showed to her children, and to, the welcoming that she gave to mine, I'm like, this is what I've been looking for all along. So for me, it was a simple, it was simple. I'm like, this is the one.
I think there is something very powerful about the fact that, some of the earliest memories I have of my wife, because we met when we were teenagers, was seeing her interact with other people.
Yeah.
I do remember the early conversations that we had, but seeing her interact with people was one of the things that initially really sparked my interest and thoughts. Man, I would love to have a relationship with this person. But for us, there were some concrete things. I didn't really process the question itself, like what is it that makes me know? But our faith aligned, our values aligned, our background aligned. Right. So there is a sense in which if you were to ask me that question, I would just be like, well, because it was the right thing to do. Now, obviously, that's not the only thing. That's not the only thing that went into it. But at the time, I knew this is the right decision. And we had pastoral counseling, and we went through a lot of the kind of steps that people traditionally take before they get married, I guess you could say. So we had a chance to discuss those things and really discern what it was we wanted out of our marriage. But before all of that, I was just like, I know that this is the right thing to do. And she is my best friend, and she's the person that I wanted to make that decision with.
Right. Okay, so now we're going to move on to romance, okay? The dictionary, it's the feeling of excitement and mystery associated with love, a quality of feeling of mystery, excitement, and remoteness from everyday life, the beauty and romance of the night. Now,
that's the definition of romance.
That's a dictionary. That's a definition that the dictionary has given. That's not my definition.
Relationship got like 5 words.
Right. Yeah. Now, respect. To me, if you're not respectful, okay, if that's a lack of, then you have a lack of relationship, okay? So now how can you have romance if you have no respect and the relationship is dwindling? Where would romance come in? Okay, you men do not know that I'm an author, but I wrote a book called Who Cheats More Than a Politician? You Be the Judge. And with that, I interviewed a lot of couples, and some of the things they said, like one of the things they mentioned is that the spouse would have an argument. You guys would have an argument. And then, of course, because women are emotional creatures, they do not want anything from you, but you would have the argument, and then 5 minutes after, you're looking for that romance. So what do you have to say about that? Is the women right in feeling this way, that no romance for you tonight because I feel a certain way? We just had an argument. Okay, I'm going to bed. You stay over there. I'm staying over there. I'm keeping it real. How do you feel about what is your take?
That's one way to set up a question right there. Look at
Give me your honest opinion.
This goes to the beginning of the podcast.
It does. That's exactly what I said. So when we were talking about communication, and I referenced this physicality and how men communicate through physicality, I think that's part of it. And so when you say, well, hey, we could have this argument, and how could I want to have, romantic situation with someone, and the reality is part of how we communicate also. And so just because we have an argument, it does not mean I don't love you,
Right.
and it doesn't mean I don't want you, and it doesn't mean I don't seek you. And so how we communicate and the timing of how we communicate, it's a little different.
So would you say that your initiation of physicality, or we'll call that romance, though I think we can unpack romance a number of different ways, right? But that would be part of the communication of a repair of an argument? That is it that directly said? Could be?
For me, yeah.
Ladies!
For me,
bro.
for me, it's one way of communicating.
Yeah.
And let's say, hey, if we're disagreeing and we're both feeling, not good about something, and then I can create something that we both feel good about. That's what's wrong with that?
Creating of something that we can both feel good about.
Make sure you get that captured. Right? We're gonna have that in writing.
Can that be the title of the podcast?
Okay, Jean?
Well, I you know what? I love your the way your philosophy on things. I think I need to try it.
We're about to change the global men enrichment with Nate, bro.
With Nate, no, because my solution the next day, she loves shoes. I just go buy a pair of shoes. And then
Okay.
and then, yeah,
Like that too?
yeah. A
Yeah.
nice pair of shoes, and then
And after you buy the shoes, she'll give you anything.
So, but we just have this kind of general rule, out of respect, and our couple in communication, we have an argument, and once the sun sets, we go to bed. That's it. We don't talk about it anymore. We don't. And I know this is where sometimes women want to talk more about something, but if at some point there's no end to an argument, then I think it hurts the relationship. So I call it the sunset clause. We can argue I will talk to you all night until the sun comes up, and when the sun comes up, no matter what, it's behind us. It stops. It stops, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. Because it'll get to the next day and the next day, and then the other thing we don't. And here's my compromise, because I won't go to sleep until we finish the argument. Let's hash it out. Let's get it done. And once we're done with it, then we can go to sleep. And once we go to sleep on it, it's done. Now,
But what if she says, I do not want to talk about it. I want to marinate on it. I want to think about it some more and talk about it the next day.
That's always
And out of respect, then you have to respect her.
you have to respect her, but that's always a difficult thing for men. Do I really want to come back home? And oh my God,
You dread coming home.
you literally dread coming home, because if we're gonna have
Buy two pairs of shoes.
Everyone has their own set of ground rules or playground rules. If that works for you guys, and you've agreed, this is how we're going to manage this. And then we remember, wait, what are kind of like, marriage operating principles. This is what we're going to do, and they work for you, but they might not work for me.
Yeah,
So I'll have another set. I'll write that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've come to the conclusion in our relationship that I cannot just talk about things when I feel like talking about it, right? And so, I mean, obviously, I'm determining that for myself, not for my wife. But like in that situation, I mean, if you guys can agree that, hey, we should not go to bed on our anger and that we should hash these things out, even if we don't want to, you guys should be able to do that. Like when it comes to arguments that I might have with my wife, my first reaction is to shut down. And that's because I can get angry. And so I have to shut down and just let myself process for a little bit. And in that time of processing, I am not trying to beat up my wife. I am not in my head thinking of all the things she's done wrong. I'm in my head trying to say, hey, where could you have done better? Because when that conversation does happen and we have to work out what just took place, I have to take the initiative. And I believe as men that it is our responsibility for when you enter into those times of tension and turmoil with your spouse, you need to take the initiative in resolving that. And so, like in your case, saying, hey, we're going to get this done tonight. I think that's our responsibility to make sure, hey, it is going to get done. And it's not a matter of just putting it behind you, right? It's a matter of making sure it gets settled. And when something's forgiven, it's forgiven.
It's
right?
forgiven. Yeah.
So I think sometimes we think of forgiveness in these like completely personal terms, where forgiveness is a matter of how I feel about the situation, right? I forgive you when I completely feel better about it, but that's not the case, right? When God forgives you, he says you are acquitted, right? He says it is done, it is put behind you. It's not that he doesn't know you did it, but it's been declared as forgiven. And so I think that when it comes to our relationships with regard to anger, the reality is, we all get angry, but we need to be able to take the initiative in saying, hey, we will work through those things, obviously in the time frame that you need to do it, but we're going to do it. Now, when it comes to romance, like, I like what Nate said. That's not my initial reaction, but like, sex is a gift from God. Sex is a great thing. Like, we should have sex in our.
Thank you for saying the word.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, did we not say it? Well, Nate said it. No. Did you not? Did you avoid saying that the whole time?
Yes.
Oh, good.
We understood.
We all knew, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the things that'll keep us from experiencing and enjoying the gifts that we have. And we should not, right? We unless there's some like other purpose behind it, we should not be abstaining from the gifts that we should be enjoying in the marriage bed. And I would say sex is a great gift from God. So don't let anger ruin it.
Oh my God, I love that. Don't let anger ruin it. Okay, 30 seconds, Sandra.
I think it's time for us to take it out, right? So on that note, we are just enjoying the gifts that God gives us through respect, romance, and relationships. And we're so grateful to our men for sharing so honestly and truthfully and from the heart. We really appreciate that. And we've learned a lot from you all today. Your gentleness, your passion, your ability to speak so eloquently about these emotions. We are grateful. And we thank you all, our wonderful guests, for joining us again. We will be on hiatus for the next few months, but keep watching. We have some bloopers to share with you in the summer, and we look forward to seeing you in the fall. And don't forget to look us up at gwnrichment.com. C'est la vie. Bye.